Here we go. Yes, I am back. In the darkness, I came back out of it. On my own little darkness retreat. This is First and Tim, live in the upstate. However you may be, wherever you may be listening, YouTube channel, Spotify. I'm on all social media platforms in case this is your first time listening. Got a lot of good stuff in here today. Football news, basketball news, college basketball's around the corner. A lot of good stuff. Glad you guys could join me this evening. So, there is a report now from Adam Schefter. The Chicago Bears are leaning toward trading the number one pick. So, a rule has always been that if you have the number one pick, you're not very good. So, you should always trade it. Unless there's like a Peyton Manning or Trevor Lawrence or Andrew Luck, or like one of those, transformational guys, John Elway, with whatever it is. And you can't miss. And you get about one of those a decade, maybe two. So I would always trade down, because if you're drafting the number one, historically you're a bad team of 5 or 6 major holes, and two things can also be true. I know the internet leads you to believe this isn't the case, but two things can be true. That if Caleb Williams of USC, who was the Heisman winner, was available in this draft, the Bears would move off Justin Fields. If there was a A++ prospect, you would move off Justin Fields. And the second thing is, there isn't. So you're probably best served. They like Justin Fields. He's a big kid. He's got a big arm. He's athletic. He's not good at the passing thing yet. And some quarterbacks, that have come to this league, that's the struggle, with the passing thing. Josh Allen, he takes longer. The two best quarterbacks in the league, Joe Burrow and Mahomes, they never struggle with the passing thing. If I was checking out Chicago, I would consider, but he's not an A++ prospect. He comes with some things that concern me a little bit. You trade down. If there's not an Elway, if there's not Andrew Luck, if there's not a Trevor Lawrence, trade down. And, the story this morning is they're leaning towards the trade. Well, how about you lean all the way in and jump into that pool, okay? So, also, the mock draft, Mel Kiper came out with a mock draft, and it's exactly something strongly that we just suggested with the Chicago Bears. Now, the Bears have the number one pick, and Mel Kiper's mock draft has the Bear making 2 trades. One to the Texans, and then another to the Colts. And so thus, then the Bears end up with multiple picks. And so that puts them at 4. To me, is the way you should manipulate the draft. And I don't know what the Bears would get by going down one spot, and they eventually, get down to 4. And by the way, at 4, they still get like a Will Anderson edge rusher or a Jalen Carter defensive tackle. They need both. And we know the Bears, they'll draft defense. That's what they do. And here's why it's important to get multiple picks. The Bears, the league has pivoted offense, and the Bears have it, so you have to give the Bears a surplus of picks to get the offense. Just think about this in 103-year history of the Chicago Bears. They've never had a quarterback throw for over 4,000. The Packers have done it 17 times the last 5 years. Mahomes has done it 5 times. Geno Smith did it last year. The Bears have none. And 103 years, and they can't do offense. Last year, their first offensive pick, 3rd round, Jones, wide receiver, bust. The first 2 picks, quarterback, cornerback, safety, great players. They can't draft offense. They don't get it. They can't scheme it. They don't think it's a defensive culture. So you need multiple picks. Joe Namath threw for 4,000 yards in 1967. The Bears in 2022 can't even get close. I could give you the Mitchell Trubisky debacle, the number 2 pick, ridiculous, embarrassing reach for Kevin White, wide receiver. The number 7 pick, complete with another bust. Fearless Jones, that was a bust, and then they drafted a tackle in the second round a couple years ago to Oklahoma State, supposed to be the tackle in the future, and they've already moved off of him. Inside, they moved him inside the guard. They can't draft. And even Justin Fields. I mean, we're 2 years in, and I'm not solely blaming Justin Fields. He's 5-20 with a passer rating under 80 and completing less than 60% of this. Like they can't figure out the offense, so you have to give the Bears multiple picks, so they have some whiffs. And I'm not saying that they've never drafted a good offensive player, but you have to go all the way back to Alshon Jeffrey, 2012 draft. I think that's the last time they hit a star skill player in the draft. 10 years ago, the Seahawks got two starting tackles, both excellent, and start running back in last year's draft. And they're not a great drafting team. Over the last 6 to 7 years, so in 23 years, the Bears one time had a top 10 offense. It's embarrassing. I mean, Cleveland makes fun of Chicago's offense. So when I look at Chicago Bears fans, all these big, strong opinions on offense, no. You don't get one. You're a defensive culture, a defensive franchise. All your best players are overwhelmingly defense. You can't. The average in the NFL now, like, you're an average quarterback. If you throw for 4,000 yards and have 30 touchdowns, it's Kirk Cousins. He's thrown for 4,000 yards 7 times and 30 touchdowns probably. 3 or 4 times. Bears have never had a quarterback do it. So in Justin Field right now, I mean, he's 6'4". He's going to work out. I think he's not going to get the draft scheming, the breaks. It's just not the infrastructure, the ecosystem of the Bears. They do not get offense. And so my takeaway is the best thing you can do is just get another second, another third. They've got 2 5s. Get another fifth, and just roll the dice. Draft 7 or 8 offensive guys and try to hit on 3 of them, because you're not hitting on 7. Or 7 if it's not going to work. And once again, when they had the job opening, they hired a defensive coach. And their second pick last year was defensive players. And once again, it's the offense that gives occasional highlights. But it's Bears fans just don't have an opinion on offense. The occasional highlight, the Vikings, you don't get an opinion on the offense. The Vikings can have one. The Packers can have one. By the way, Detroit last year, that offense was great. But this is Mel Kiper's mock draft, and that's the way to do it. Just keep trading down. Play keep. Justin Field, because there's no way. Prospect Bryce Young at 5'10 and a half, 190 pounds. Probably not an ideal fit in a cold, windy weather city, but we all know that certain quarterbacks, smaller quarterbacks, are tend to be better in warm weather or in domes. We know that Kyler Murray worked much better in Arizona than he would if he was in Chicago or Buffalo. In Buffalo, you want Josh Allen. That ball cuts through cold weather. Brady's ball cuts through cold weather. Jay Cutler, by the way, strong arm. Aaron Rodgers, Favre, Flacco cut through bad weather. Teddy Bridgewater got drafted, I think, at one point by Minnesota. That's not a smart pick. Teddy's better he's like a Tua. You get him down south, warm weather, that works. So here is the Bears GM, Ryan, and he pulls this morning, being asked if they're sticking with Justin Fields.
Do our homework on this class, and if something changes, and again, I'll just use the same statement we had going away to say, I think this is best for our organization. Justin did some really good things. I'm excited about where his game's going to go. But at the same time, when you sit in our situation at 1 overall, you have to do your due diligence. You have to investigate everything. You got to spend time with those guys just to make sure we're making the right decision.
All right. So if there's an A++ prospect, you probably roll the dice and move off Justin Fields. There isn't. So you give him another year. You start. You're still not paying them a fortune, but getting as many picks as you can. This is a really good tackle draft. It's a good tackle draft, and it's a really strong early tight end draft. There's some really good ones. First 2 rounds, you get as many first, seconds, third as you load up heavily on offense. Cross your fingers that Chicago can hit on a couple of them because last year their offensive pick, you could have called me, and I would have told you that the guy that USC or Tennessee receiver can't track a ball. Never could. Struggles catching it as a bad pick, and this is classic Chicago. Nailed their first two defensive picks, whiffed on their third offensive pick. All right, Green Bay's GM is talking on the combine now. All the GMs are talking right now. So, you just, it is what it is. All right, now we're going to pivot to basketball. All right, so the Lakers won Sunday. And so let's start this topic with glass half full optimistic Timmy boy. Okay? The Lakers at the trade deadline had 4 issues. 3 of the 4. Okay? Here's the good news. Westbrook's toxicity, he's out. The first problem. Didn't have enough shooters. The upgraded overall length and depth on the wing upgrade. Okay? That is glass half full Timmy boy. Now, let's get to realistic Timmy boy. The 4th issue is LeBron is old and AD always hurt, and even though Jaron Vanderbilt was masterful, and the Mavericks got their own issues, and they got a lot of they got a lot of it. And so the lasting image I have from Sunday's win is LeBron in the tunnel limping out. Give me in the last 2 to 3 years and a 3-week period when I didn't see this. The Lakers got a very nice coat of paint on their car during the trade deadline. That puppy's got 286,000 miles, but sorry to break it to you, Laker Nation. The Warriors, they have Steve Kerr. Steph is coming back in a winning culture. The best coach in the game. This is an organization, the 2 best players. One is injury prone, and so the other is really old, and happiness is connected to expectations. And having LeBron for about a 10 to 12 year, sure. Coming out of there Sunday, they were guaranteed a trip to the finals. But now having LeBron miss several weeks due to a foot, or it's an ankle, or groin, or whatever it is, it switches from day to day. They can never nail down what the injury report says that the injury is. Now, I do think the Lakers have added shooting and a depth, and like I said, a nice coat of paint that they can beat you more ways. But Sunday was a nice win. They got off to a terrible start, mostly because the Mavericks couldn't miss, and the Lakers couldn't shoot. And Vanderbilt has been outstanding. He gives them size and length. It's a smaller league. If you're a 6'9" guy that runs the floor, you can get a lot of points, and he did. And AD, when he's healthy, he's a monster. And LeBron is still something that you can be reckoned with. But this car, that coat of paint, doesn't change things to get to the next level. The championship level. You have to move off AD. So it's like, again, it's another nice win. It's a nice win, right? But Dallas is a bit of a mess. The West is fairly wide open, but not as wide open as we probably think. And I got to go back to that lasting image for me is LeBron limping out of the tunnel. And if you think I'm wrong, go the last 3-week stretch with this team where LeBron or AD wasn't limp out of the tunnel, writhing in pain, or on the floor, or had to leave the game early. Go. I'll wait for your answer off air, okay? It's just the reality of what it is. It's the reality of what this team is. But the good news, glass half full Timmy boy, is they did a very good job at the trade deadline to add pieces to allow them to win games. Like this when they don't play great. They can win more ways than they could 3 weeks ago. They're now 4-1 since they made these moves. 4-1, that's good. I'm reminded of a quote. You can look into your past, but don't stare at it. The Lakers do a lot of staring. The banners hanging, and at their past, and at the very best where they're connected to Hollywood, Showtime fun, and flashy, and magic, and They got titles and blockbusters, and they're very much currently connected to Hollywood knockoffs and reboots, and nobody watches the Oscars. The LeBron AD, the original, is good. It filled the theaters. But you got the Bubblicious Championship, and I don't want to see a sequel. I'll say it again. My takeaway on the Dallas win was LeBron limping out of the tunnel. He then shared, it appears to be at a clinic or a hospital, shot of his leg all wrapped up, whatever. That is, whoever is helping him. Now look, we're not rooting for more injuries. What we're rooting for in Los Angeles, and what everybody should be rooting for, is clarity. This is not a franchise that figures out the simple stuff. They look in the past, they romanticize it, they count banners. Look at the story today. Lakers fear LeBron out several weeks. We've got one of our two stars limping out of the tunnel, and this is the reality of what it is. A Hollywood ending with no sequel. Very best of luck to LeBron. He'll probably be back in 2-3 weeks. Okay, so March 15th is when free agency starts, and for about 48 hours before that, teams can talk and jockey around, but you can't sign anything. So the whole tampering thing is fuzzy. Everybody's talking about quietly. People are leaking stuff, and I saw some kind of media sort of coverage on a college player, and I want to defend him because it's kind of fascinating. And I think there's one player in the draft that's getting a majority of the criticism, and be very, very careful. He could be a steal in the draft, and we'll talk about that coming up. Time for new tires? Trust the experts at TireRack.com. Crushing it for over 40 years. Passionate, knowledge, experience. Go to TireRack.com. Tell them what you drive. Their easy-to-use tire decision guide. You answer a couple questions. Get a personalized tire recommendation. They've got a full line of Sumitomo tires right now. Also, right now, you get a free 2-year road hazard protection when you sign up. So if you hit a pothole, drive over a screw or a nail, you're fully covered. Tire Rack, they ship it fast to you, and they ship it for free. Free to one of over 10,000 recommended installers in some areas. Many actually, they offer mobile tire installation. At Tire Rack, a technician brings the tires to your house or office and puts them right on there and installs them for you. Game changer. TireRack.com. The way tire buying should be.
This Marvel movie yet? I like ants. Thanks, buddy. And it's now the #1 movie in the world. I feel like I'm hugging Godzilla. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Rated PG-13. In theaters everywhere.
Hey, Charles.
What the?
It's barbecue time.
Nah, Chuck's always been a little twisted.
Asia? Jason?
Everybody knows you love cheese, old man. So hit 6. Let's do this.
I do like cheese. Old?
Out.
Are you calling old Mr. 20 seasons?
20 and counting.
Well, count on not getting picked today.
No!
Ruffles, choose the flavor that speaks to you.
I'll be back for you, Tatum.
Yes. AFC has wraps now?
Got 2 for $5.
Wait, there's one with spicy slaw? Back to new Kentucky Fried Chicken wraps for just $5.
Want a lawn that looks like this, but your lawn looks a little bit more like this? Check out True Green. With the local lawn experts that guarantee results you can see. Start today and you can get 50% off your first service.
I'm ready!
When I walked away from boxing, I walked away with some unfinished business.
I spent half your life in the cell watching somebody else live your life.
Don't let him destroy everything you found.
3, rated PG-13, March 3rd.
How to make your flight. Step 1, plan for nearly anything. Step 2, have nearly everything go wrong. Step 3, still make your flight because you booked your ride ahead. Introducing Uber Reserve. Get your ride right.
What are we? What do we stand for? I'm going to Mandalore so that I may be forgiven for my transgressions. Hang on, kid.
Season 3 streaming March 1st, only on Disney+.
This is First and Tim Unfiltered.
Brought to you by Jersey Mike Subs. Be a sub above.
You know, it really struck me that there's a bigger gap of talent between Jalen Hurts and the next best NFC quarterback than Mahomes and Burrow. Most of the great ones, Mahomes, Burrow, Lawrence, Herbert, Allen, they're all AFC. Mahomes is the best with the talent, but it's inches, not feet, on a lot of those. I like Matt Stafford, but right now the Rams are trying to renegotiate his deal. He comes off a litany of injuries. He can be reckless at times. He's not mobile. And if they don't rework his deal, he'll again have a below-average offensive line, which will mean it's an average team. Aaron Rodgers may be in the AFC right now. Aaron's going to be 39 during the season. And as much talent as he has, he's kind of non-committal in the offseason. And then Jared Goff, who can't play on the road. Did have a great year, but he can't lead his team to the playoffs in a year in which the Packers were down. And could argue by Thanksgiving, Geno Smith was having the best year at quarterback outside of Jalen Hurts. So you have to consider, and San Francisco is the next most talented team, and they don't even know what they're doing at quarterback. They have no idea what they're doing, but it does matter. Who do you play? Who are your rivals? How does everybody stack up the position? And when do you go top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL? The first 5 are AFC. The next is Jalen Hurts. And I think almost everybody agrees with this today. You start going to reckless old guys and guys that could be in the NFC in 2 weeks following him. It's just another reason. You got to sign him. All right, the NFL Combine is this week, and so your chance to win $5,000 with the Super 6 app. Just download the Super 6 app on your phone and make your 6 Combine predictions for your chance at the jackpot. Okay, so for the next several weeks, this is First and 10, we're back. There's going to be big stories about 20 and 25 games left in the NBA. Okay, here comes the final home stretch. We have March Madness, so there's no dominant team. It's going to be a lot of upsets in college basketball. I'm thinking Creighton. Strange, I know, but possibly it could be Creighton. And over the next several weeks, NFL free agency. And the league is much more willing to make trades than they were 10 to 15 years ago. It's a lot of fun, so I could see we start talking about these college quarterbacks, and one of them has taken a majority of the criticism, and I think he's a fascinating kid. His name is Will Levis. He's at Kentucky. So let's talk about the precedent, and let's talk about present. I mean, what do I mean? Let's talk about the stuff that matters. We know for quarterbacks, so it's brain power. His mom went to Yale. His grandfather went to Cornell. Highly educated New England kid. Brain power. A+, 4-point finance major. Cognitively, you know, kid's as smart as anybody in the draft. Any player. Not saying he's the smartest, but he's up there. Arm strength. It's all over the internet. This kid has a hose. He's got a rocket arm. Brain power. And arm strength doesn't mean everything, but they matter. There's also a third component. He's been doubted. He's had a transfer from Penn State. Joe Burrow had a transfer. Brady was doubted. Aaron Rodgers, junior college, doubted. Kyler Murray, doubted. That is a component that we buy. Miami, Ohio, not Ohio State, took Big Ben. Players that are doubted get a chip on their shoulder. You've seen it before, and we'll see it again. So those 3 components, big brain, big arm, and he's been doubted, so he's not cocky. He had nothing handed to him. I like all those, but let me offer a 4th, 2 out of 3 of the star quarterbacks in the league. Okay, starting quarterbacks did not go traditional power. So Joe Burrow, did he transfer? Okay, Mac Jones, Alabama. Kyler Murray did. and Jalen Hurts in Oklahoma had to transfer. But they did Matt Stafford, Georgia. You had Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, Clemson, Justin Herbert, Oregon, and Justin Fields, Ohio State. So some of those guys are struggling. Some are starting, whatevs. About 10 guys went big boy college. 2 out of 3 didn't. So what does that mean? It means they didn't have great players around him. And Will Levis did not have a single first or second team all-conference player in the offseason. And the receivers aren't as open as you're under duress. You're getting the crap kicked out of you. Translation, a real NFL experience. Even Patrick Mahomes, when they rebuilt his offensive line this year, guys were less open before. They rebuilt his offensive line before, and then they rebuilt his defense. And this is what's great for the franchise. Philadelphia was bizarrely stacked, and even at the end of the year, we found out their defense was overrated. So I'm going to give you 2 players I want you to consider the best college football in the country has been for the past 20 years is in the South. Okay, so let me give you 2 quarterbacks who played college football in the South for non-power teams. Not a Bama, not a Georgia, not a Clemson, not a LSU. A non. Meaning these quarterbacks were not getting the crap kicked out of them. They didn't have first-round receivers. They didn't get great protection. So the 2 quarterbacks are Eli Manning at Ole Miss and Phillip Rivers at NC State. Compare him to Will Levis at Kentucky, a basketball school pretty much. Completion percentage. Will Levis is the highest of the 3 winning percentages. Will Levis is the highest of the 3 touchdown interception ratio. Will Levis in line with Eli Manning, brain power, arm, doubted, playing at a basketball school in the talent-rich South. I mean, this is what the numbers look like. 24 starts, 117, 66% completion percentage. He didn't have a single offensive player that made the first or second team all-conference. Touchdown to interception ratio. Threw some picks, 4 of them, they were tipped. 6 were catchable balls. Folks, look at what works in the sport. Arm, brain, doubted. Don't get caught up on, he did have a lot of interceptions. Yeah, interceptions. Yeah, so did Josh Allen. It's the quarterback. He does have what we call a wow factor. Yes, his grandparents and his mom went to Yale. And this is not all I see here. Okay, with Will Levis is the box check box. Box check, box check. He has a doubted, big brain, big arm. Yeah, you played for Kentucky against, you're going to have the second best player if you play Georgia, LSU, Florida, Bama, even some of the most of the time. Auburn is more of a football school than a basketball school. So that Will Levis, NFL teams with first round picks that need a quarterback, Carolina, I'm giving it to you. All right, let's get to some news. Let's keep the theme going with quarterbacks. Patriots quarterback Mac Jones looking to bounce back in year 3 under his new offensive coordinator, Bill O'Brien. Not great last year, did make the Pro Bowl as a rookie. However, his teammates aren't writing him off just yet because of a down year. Here's Patriots safety Devin McCourty on Mac Jones.
I think Mac has all the intangibles and the things that you want in a quarterback. I think sky's the limit. I think he's the future of New England. Any doubts, I think you're wrong. If you don't think that, I think he's a future. He's in that building right now doing different things, working with guys, talking to guys. That's what he wants.
Now, you could argue that he and Justin Fields are the opposite. Nobody has any concerns with Justin's ability to move, his size, his electricity. With Mac, that's all we get concerned about. But what Mac does really well is see the ball, throw it accurately. Like, that's the one thing. If you gave Justin Fields that Mac Jones ability, he's an A++. If you give Mac Justin's disability and size to move, he can't do anything off script. Nothing. So he's very limited. But the reality in this league is if you can throw the ball accurately, and New England generally has a solid run game, a good defense, and a decent protection. So it's hard to move up people. People love Daniel Jones. He doesn't throw the ball accurately. Mac Jones does. Matt Nagy has officially been named the Chiefs' offensive coordinator, his second stint with the team, as he was the OC there in 2016 and 2017. He takes over for Eric Bieniemy, who went to Washington. I think they should be heavy favorites to win again next year. I'm not saying he's better or worse, but the idea that Chicago was just a disaster, Mitch Trubisky to the playoffs, the NFC was better, Aaron Rodgers was better, that's saying something. Okay, Cowboy fans, Dak Prescott. Remember that 4-year, $60 million extension with the Cowboys in 2021? Well, 2 years later, the contract is being discussed today. So today at the Combine in Indy, Stephen Jones piped up and said, "We've got to plan to ultimately extend Dak." And here's his full quote. He said, "I've got a lot of faith in the world that we can win this thing with Dak because we know him, we know what he's about. His leadership skills are undeniable, impeccable work ethic. Other than he hadn't won some of key playoffs games, he's everything you want in a quarterback from the day he walked in the door. He's won a lot of games. We just have to get over the hump." I think we know what Dak is. It's like talking about Kirk Cousins. I know what I got, and I know what I don't. So, more NFL free agency news. The Rams were 5-12 last year, just awful after winning the Super Bowl. But according to NFL Network, it's very likely Jalen Ramsey is going to be free agency in the coming weeks to save cap space. They also reported that Bobby Wagner is going to be released weeks ago. They said it 2 weeks ago. So, the Rams are moving off Jalen Ramsey, and now the stories are flying that they're moving in and they're going to move them eventually because then they have to. What I've been told is the organization has made a decision they're going to go all in on offense for the next 6 months. They're going to go all in offense in the draft free agency, and they just moved Bobby Wagner, so they've got some defensive holes, but probably get a first and a fourth, or a couple of seconds, or a first and a fifth for Jalen Ramsey, and then they're going to give Sean McVay, who contemplated retirement, they're gonna shape up this offensive line. They're gonna get him another receiver. They like to move off Cam Akers and give him another running back. So I've been told the organization, McVay, is gonna get some offensive help, and that they're gonna be as good defensively. But that's and for the record, Jalen Ramsey is a terrific player. 2 years ago, he had one of the best seasons ever for a corner. He was fantastic. I think he's a big play corner, but that takes too many risks. But he's definitely a top 5 corner in the league. Sometimes you're going to take people by the hand, and they're reticent to change. Okay, and that's Major League Baseball. But they've made multiple changes this season, and so far they're all working. They've implemented a pitch clock, which is shaving about 20 minutes off spring training games. It just so happens that it's working. It's going to move. It's. I always hated it. That'll mean more stolen bases, more base runners, more power hitters hitting in the alley. Getting hits. The sport needs to be quicker. Everyone's on their phones now. People want activity. They want shortened games. They don't have 4 hours. And the bottom line is baseball. Kicking and screaming, baseball fans kicking and screaming had to be pulled into changes. But so far in spring training, they're making the game easier to consume. The games are now around 240, not 305, and it's good. It's all good. Some people do not like the change, and they're going to fight tooth and nail. Those people in America are called baseball fans. So sometimes you just got to pull them in, and it's a sport that loves its history. It's sometimes paralyzed by it. But I know when you're a 20-year-old and you don't have kids and you're not married and you don't have a career, really more of you don't have a career, you have more of just a job, and you have all day to watch baseball, but tickets are expensive, and you're trying to get parents and they don't want to sit in the stadium for 3.5 hours. They want to go watch 6 innings, have a beer, get home early, and then 3.5 hour games, especially for a season that has too many games. You don't want games to be too long. Football's different. It's once a week. It's a party. You tailgate. You sit next to the same people for 20 years. A game goes 4 hours. You give your Sunday up for it. Nobody wants to give their Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday up for 3.5 hour games right when the season's already too long. And you know what? The games to be too long, you have one game a week in baseball. Nobody would care. You got 6 time it matters, all right? So, also NFL news today, Falcons release Marcus Mariota. The GM says we are going to leave every door open to bring another quarterback. All right, and those are the latest headlines.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
So these are my 10 favorite duos currently in the NBA. Tandems or duos, favorite, whatever you want to call it, okay? No, I don't think they're the best of the best. And I'm considering everything, it's strong. So with number 10, I would be Luka and Kyrie. They played no defense, but offense is about 70% of the league. Luka leads the league in scoring. Kyrie shooting over 50. They're just dynamic. They're magnetic. Offensively, huge issue. I don't know if either is a great teammate, and they don't play a liquid defense, so they'd be 10. Number 9, I put Kawhi and Paul George. Now, Kawhi, I start to play better. They're both excellent defensive players and good offensive players. I would take them in a series over Dallas because they can make stops in Dallas. They can make stops and Dallas won't. I mean, Kawhi has been on 7 all-defensive teams again. You never know if he's quite ready to play. If Kawhi played the nightly basis, I could have these guys in the top 3. But I never. So he's very non-verbal. He's not a leader. He's just a basket maker. And stop a guy, you put him in there. And so that's why I have him at 9. Number 8, Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. Donovan's had a great year again. I get more consistent play from them because I think they're going to be ready to go. Donovan's averaging 27 a game, not much of a defensive player. Garland is a rising star. He's fantastic. I think Cleveland, a year away, mobility keeps growing, but I love watching clear, great, one of the better watches in the NBA. I put Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland at 7. 7? No, I put them at 8. 7, Jokic and Jamal Murray. Everybody freaks out, but I don't trust Jamal Murray in a big spot. He averages 20 a game. Jokic, obviously the great point center. Qualities of one of the great passing big man. I know I should trust this team. I don't. Some guys aren't great regular season players, not great postseason players. I would put them a strong one. Jamal Murray's an average 2. I would put them at 7. Number 6 would be LeBron and AD. But, AD's already missed 24 games this year. Now LeBron's hurt. If healthy, you could argue that they're the number 1 or 2. But they're never healthy. AD leads the league in rebounds, tremendous defensive player, but he's already missed 24 games. It's just a matter of when, not if he'll get banged up. And LeBron's out for 2 weeks. Number 5, the guys I watched last night, Bam Adebayo, who has right now one of the best years of pro, 21 a game, very defensive player, and Jimmy Butler, he's averaging 22. And now Jimmy misses some games, plays hard, gets dinged up, but I just think this is a great team that leads the NBA in possession wins, 13. So I think this is a great team. In close, you got to blow the Heat out. If you don't, if it gets close between their defense, their coaching situationally, basketball, Miami's great. I put them in at 5. I put Giannis and Drew Holiday at 4, and the reason because I think eventually they want Chris Middleton to be the 2 instead of Drew Holiday. Holiday is a better defensive player, very smart veteran player. Giannis is the best player in the league, and basically he gets them before. But I like Drew Holiday. He's one of the guys on the team with Jay Crowder and Ingles and Chris Middleton. But this is Giannis' story. He's on any given night the best player, offensive, defensive player in the NBA, and that's why I would say. Number 3, Tatum and Jaylen Brown. My knock is with Jason Tatum. He didn't show up last night at all. This was it was great Saturday night against Philly. Did nothing last night. He was tragic in the first quarter, and the game was over. Sometimes I don't think Tatum quite has the hit. Jaylen Brown's the better athlete. Jaylen Brown, I feel like he's more aggressive, but they are phenomenal. I could argue the heart and soul of the team is Marcus Smart, but I really, really think they're good players. Number 2, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. Any given night, I have the best shooting guard, best shooting player on the planet. They're fantastic. Booker is overlooked a lot in the West because Dame and Steph and other great guards and Chris Paul and all that. Devin Booker is a great player. He's not Kobe. He was compared to him early, but he's not. And Durant's the best. He's the best bucket guy in the NBA right now. So that's why I think they're number 2. And the number 1, the greatest backcourt shooters in the history of the game, Steph and Clay. Now Steph is hurt. Clay is having his best year in 5 or 6 years. Play's having a great year. He's not the defensive player he used to be, but he's still a tremendous player. Super smart, can finish each other's sentences. Steph's going to be fine. There's no backcourt in the NBA history that can drop 15 points, come back from 12 down, or have a 4-point lead, become 19 faster. And they have a championship moxie experience. Big game clutch performance, IQ off the charts. These are my 10 best duos, by the way. And De'Aaron Fox in Sacramento, they don't play any defense either. In Sabona, I had them like 11. And Embiid and Harden don't make it. Trust me, they're just too flaky. So I'll end with this. This has been a big issue, particularly with the older NBA guys. Loaded management concerns. And I strongly agree on this load management issue. And I think Adam Silver is tone deaf. So the NFL ratings, don't tell me all the sports ratings are down. WNBA ratings the last several years, I don't know about this year, but have been up. NFL ratings this year are up. There's all sorts of sports ratings that are up. NBA ratings have been on a 5 or 6 year decline. Now you can argue there's a lot of depth. They took on some social causes. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I don't have the answers. But they're down, and the All-Star ratings were like a 20-year low. They were terrible. Major League Baseball is making some radical changes to speed the game up. It took forever, but you got to hold baseball fans in their hands and bring them along to the 21st century. But they're making changes, and they're speeding the game up. The NBA appears to be semi-tone deaf. Nothing to see clear. The NFL ratings with Kaepernick went down 2%. The league's networks freaked out. They didn't want to put Kaepernick anthems on the air. I get it. Right. So my takeaway is this is not a 1-year issue with the NBA. It's a 5 or 6 year issue. Baseball was about 10 to 12 year issue where you see this gradual decline in ratings. Our All-Star games, it's not the end of the world. Baseball makes a ton of money, so does the NBA, but Charles Barkley pushed back not on player mobility, which I think is fine. Barkley move, Durant move, LeBron move. I think that makes the league better and more fascinating. Load management stars electing not to play, and here's Charles Barkley on the topic.
I don't think fans get mad if you're making $30, $40, $50 million if you play basketball every night. But you can't make $30, $40, $50 million and then sit out games. I think it's disrespectful to the game. I think it's disrespectful to the fans. They fly private. They got the best medical stuff ever created. It ain't like we working in a steel mill, brother. I mean, if people working in a steel mill every day, I'm pretty sure they're tired too.
I'm tired too. So, 2 of the 22 leading scorers in the NBA, top 22, one has played every game, and almost all of them have this double figures. Okay? I understand the season's long. I get it. But fans are very perceptive in the NFL, has made radical rule changes. Why? To keep their stars healthy. I don't want Patrick Mahomes missing any starts. And so they've made a defensive head coaches virtually feel like they should be extinct. They've changed the game, which will change records. It will change history. You can't stop a Patrick Mahomes, even if you're stacked like the Niners or the Eagles. You can't stop them. And so, the NBA, my issue is not the fact that the player occasionally misses games. Can you miss a Tuesday, Saturday night, or this weekend? I wanted to watch the Bucks and the Suns this weekend. No Giannis, no KD. They chose not to play, so I chose not to watch. I'm just a consumer. Last night, the Knicks and the Celtics. It wasn't a televised game, but if it was, Jaylen Brown. He's like, I don't want to play. I say, I don't need to watch you. Again, you have the power. As Jalen Hurts and Mahomes are screaming at their coaches to play all banged up. Increasingly, NBA stars find reasons not to play. And it's not the end of the world. Nobody's ever really watched. Even in the great David Stern days, the truth is, David Stern, the late great David Stern, would tell people privately, nobody watches this until we get to the playoffs anyways. But when one of the 22 leading scorers has played every game, and most have missed 10 and that, Kawhi Leonard, comical, he's going to play in Golden State recently. Andrew Wiggins out, personal reasons. Jaylen Brown out, personal reasons. Kyrie Irving made it like it's a vocation, out, personal reasons. You're sending a message, and the message is just like what's been for baseball for years. Sent this message: we don't like your time. We don't think your time is valuable. The game goes 4 hours. That's you and people. Like, oh wait, my time is valuable. I have kids. I have a job. I can't sit and watch TV. Baseball's messaging was your time doesn't matter. Stop. Watch the NBA's messaging is start. They'll play when they want to play. I don't think it should be that way. You can tweak. You may not be able to solve every issue. 55 quarterbacks played this year in the NFL. Still hasn't completely solved the ability or the dilemma of the injured quarterback. Everybody goes to seemingly 90% of the teams. They go to a backup quarterback or a third quarterback. But the NFL is making and sending a message. They're making an effort. Keep their stars healthy. Baseball, now with radical changes, it's making an effort to show that your time is valuable. And when you have a season that's double the length of the NBA, we want to move these games along. I don't like messaging. Love it when the stars will play when they want to play. I don't remember missing games for personal reasons. And at the end of that, teams didn't used to have their own planes. They got their own planes now. Now they get a 9-day break during the All-Star game. The medical staffs are better. The food is better. The train is better. So the NBA keeps going above and beyond to help the players. And I don't mind you missing 8 games a year. I don't have a problem. A veteran player can't go back-to-back. I get it. It's the playoffs. Playoffs don't demand back-to-backs. And that's when you get your best basketball. But the messaging to me is lousy. You choose not to play. I choose not to watch. Baseball, my time didn't matter. I chose not to watch. Football is constantly tweaking the sport. Remember the catch rule? I hated it. They fixed it. They fixed it with the backup quarterback. Bad football. They're trying to fix it. It's a messaging issue. And so we're on like a 6-year, not on a 1. Sometimes the Kaepernick situation was a 1 or 2 year deal that came back. Your attendance, all-star ratings decline. The audience is electing to turn you off. So you have to, as a commissioner, go, why are they turning this up? My guess is baseball ratings will go up this year. That's my guess. That baseball ratings will slightly tick up and audiences will go. We're already in the 2nd inning. I got time for any sport. My time is valuable. Don't make me wait. That's all I have for tonight, guys. Thanks for listening. Follow me on the all social media platforms and my podcast, YouTube channel, and Spotify. This has been First and Tim.